Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission, to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Oh, Elkins Movie Club. It's Elkins Movie Club. Elkins Movie Club. It's Elkins Movie Club. With Kent Wogelman of the Lincoln Journal-Star. Good Friday, Kent. Oh, you got to. Did you bring it up?
Say it again, Kent.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, okay.
Hi, Kent.
Well, we can already tell
Hello.
Nick's having problems with the whole producing thing.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh,
not
no.
good at all. By the way, Kent, I want to thank you for the recommendation last week.
Oh yeah.
Of the movie that is streaming on Hulu, but it's also available in theaters, The Summer of Soul. Watched it last Friday. Really, really good. So you gave it an A+. It is a really fantastic movie.
Yeah, see it, and I would. I'm actually going to go see it again this week, I think. And I don't go see them twice.
No.
So.
Yeah, no, it was really good. The music was tremendous. It just blows my mind that something like this happened. They took the time to produce it, do a television production of it. Not that it aired live anywhere, but to record it. And then it sat in a vault for 50 years, and no one knew it happened.
Yeah, nuts. And well, a few people knew it happened, but they just couldn't get anybody to put enough money together to make a movie out of it, which is mind-boggling, particularly since the Woodstock movie of the same time was such a big hit, Because
and you were talking about some of the best acts in blues, soul, gospel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you had big name stars there as much as they had at Woodstock.
Yeah, and this is Mavis Staples, and the Staples right at their peak of before they sort of crossed over into the more pop side of things or secular, right at their gospel peak. And so you had the two, them and Mavis and Mahalia Jackson together. It's like, Sly Stone, Stevie Wonder, the Fifth Dimension, right? We're a big pop group. And yet nobody cared, I guess, because I suspect it might be because they were black.
Yeah, it could be.
I was going to ask Kent, along those lines, the nuts and bolts of something like this remaining dormant for so long and how this can happen. And I know that you just kind of hit on it, but it makes me wonder how many other projects or potential projects like this are out there that we don't know about and that could see the light of day at some point.
Yeah, good question. That's a really good question. And every now and again, you'll see some of these archival kind of movies pop up, but never anything that I can recall on this level of greatness,
Again, you can't see it in theaters, but it is also available on Hulu. That's where I watched it last week. Summer of Soul, which, for lack of a better term, it was the Black Woodstock. Happened in Harlem.
Well, that was how they tried to sell it, and nobody would buy it.
And no one bought it. Crazy. Well, the movie this week is No Sudden Move, brand new movie that is out on HBO Max. Steven Soderbergh directs. Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, Brendan Fraser. We're not going to spoil the uncredited cameo. We're not going to spoil that.
That was great.
But as soon as you see it, you're like, well, of course he's in it.
Yeah.
At least that was my reaction. But we won't spoil that so that there's at least a little bit of a surprise. But you mentioned last week, Kent. It's kind of
heist.
It was a heist movie.
Yeah, that's all I knew going in.
But it's certainly not Ocean's 11.
No,
the remake of Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13. But it has a lot of the stuff in the same vein.
Yeah, it's funny, Kent, because I wrote down, my first question that I wrote down was, can you explain the mechanics of the heist? And obviously we're not going to spoil anything, but this was a movie, I don't know about you guys, where I finished it and I pulled up the Wikipedia page and I'm like, all right, I want to read through exactly what happened because really you totally enter this world of all these characters, and there's not a whole lot of hand-holding along the way.
No.
At least I didn't think so, which can make it kind of confusing at times, but definitely gives it a really good atmosphere as well.
And I think that's intentional, right?
Yeah.
And in part, it's intentional because if you look in like the Ocean's 11 movies, these guys are really smart guys at the top of their game, and they've got this all plotted out, and they're going to take that casino for everything it's worth. And you the fun there is going along and watching them do it. These two guys are not at the top of their game, right?
No.
I mean, the Don Cheadle character is a guy just out of prison, right? And he's in trouble with one gang, and then Del Toro's in trouble with another gang, essentially. And they're both desperately trying to figure out a way out of this. And they got into it because they're not the brightest match.
Yeah.
And they certainly don't prove to be along the way. And that's what makes it a little different than those Ocean's 11 movies, and also sort of pushes it more into the film noir sort of genre rather than a straight up heist movie, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got all these. If you notice, there are no good guys in this movie.
No.
Sure.
Did you figure that out? Not a one.
Yeah.
The only quote good guy in the movie, I think, is the wife of the guy who gets the accountant.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
She was the good person in the movie. Pretty
And
much everybody
maybe the son,
else.
the two kids, the son.
The children.
Yeah, the two kids are good too. Sorry, didn't mean to.
But you're
other
right.
than those three, there are no good guys in this movie. It's a film noir, and that makes it darker. There's still some humor in it, right? There's some funny parts in there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so dark that you don't. Well, do I laugh about it or not? You know.
What did you think, Kent, of the way it was shot? Because one of the first things that I noticed, beyond like the original or the opening scene, which was great with Don Cheadle walking and the music's playing and the credits are rolling, but there's a lot of shots, and I assume it was done in a certain way by Soderbergh to show as much of the frame as possible, but it would make the edges rounded in a way, and so people that were sitting at the edge of the screen were like, they looked like they were scrunched together and a little bit
Now, you see,
taller.
I thought...
Did you think something was screwy?
I thought it was because it wasn't quite... they were trying to stretch it to fill the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I know exactly what you're talking about.
It looks like the camera...
And you're both right. And
Okay.
what it is he was mimicking the technique of how film looked in the 50s.
Okay. So
Right?
I guess explain the mechanics
He's
of that
following
then.
the era because, you know, you were using a different lens, a whole different filming system. And so it was hard to get the edges sharp, and it was hard to get the width, right? And the cinematic width. And so it was done deliberately to evoke the 50s just as much as the cars and the costumes. And
interesting. See, I thought it was just maybe. In fact, I actually paused the film for a moment and checked the screen settings to make sure I wasn't, you know, maybe if there was a different setting that I needed to make it stop doing that. It was a little distracting.
So for me, you know what it was? So I had a couple of beers, and I'm like, did these hit me a little harder than I ever would have expected them to? I'm serious. I'm like looking at my can. I'm like, what in the world did I have?
It's very subtle. It's not unless you're actually looking for it, or maybe if you're really into how things look on your TV. I'm guessing for most people they won't even notice it, but I noticed because it was just like
it was really only noticeable in like 4 or 5 sort of scenes where. You know,
if people were on the edges.
People.
Everything in a room.
Yep.
That was when it was most noticeable.
Yeah.
But that's a very 50s look. So were a lot of the camera angles.
And a lot of like Dutch tilt type stuff.
Yeah, and that extreme light and dark in parts
Yes.
was all inspired by or take off from film noir and the 50s.
Didn't Soderbergh do a movie or a show one time that was like all on a cell phone or so? So he loves experimenting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
His last movie was all done on a cell phone.
Okay. So and I don't remember what that was. I didn't see that, but he really seems to like just trying different things.
I would say now, as far as the story, you're right, Josh. You can get a little lost because you get dropped right in, and you're trying to keep track of who's doing what to whom. But the other critique I would have, and again, and maybe this is back from my original premise when I heard it was a heist film and I knew it was a Soderbergh film, that I was expecting something along the lines of Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
The man who did the music for this, David Holmes, is a guy who collaborates with Soderbergh often. I thought the music was a little too close to Ocean's 11. And thus you kept waiting for a punchline to happen or some kind of lighthearted moment, and there's really not that moment.
Yeah.
I would have wished the music would have been a little more different to give it more of that 50s feel and put you in that world, because there were a few times where I'm like, I'm hearing notes and it's like, I'm expecting.
Where's Danny Ocean?
I'm expecting Danny Ocean. I'm expecting Julia Roberts to pop on the screen, or someone to get hosed over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and I think that's fair. The other reason that it's not a heist movie per se is, the term MacGuffin?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. That it's something that's in a movie that appears to be important, but really isn't, right?
Yeah.
The heist isn't that important, right?
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it gets explained at the end, and that's what lets this thing have a little social commentary to it. But because this is based on a real thing that happened in Detroit, I don't want to give this all away.
No.
But this is really based on a true scandal. There was no crime that went with the scandal, but what they exposed, where I can do this without giving things away, where there was a technology that existed that the big automakers buried for decades.
Mm-hmm.
That happened.
Yeah.
And so that let it make that point. But beyond that, it could have been anything they stole.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It could have been anything. So it wasn't, we've got to get all these diamonds or whatever. So it changes the nature of the movie, because the MacGuffin, because what you're really watching is what all these corrupt people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's really about, who ends up with the money at the end.
Yeah.
Not necessarily who ends up with the technology at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought, I'm with you, John. Like, I thought it was fine. I thought it was interesting. And I thought that the cinematography work and some of the things you mentioned a little bit earlier, Kent, of that era, but it was, I don't know, it was like missing something. I kept waiting for it to take that next step. And I know that it's not like on the first viewing that I had like the best of handles on Ocean's 11, but also Ocean's 11 was just so much more entertaining. And so I could be confused and then I could rewatch it. I'm sure I'll rewatch this someday, but I didn't, like when I finished Ocean's 11, I wanted to go right back into that world and see, okay, how exactly did they end up robbing this casino?
Yeah.
This one, it was like, I'll read the Wikipedia page to figure out exactly how this all unfolded.
And what we're experiencing here is, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, I just looked at the ranking between the critics and the public. Critics put it at 90%, public at 65%.
And were you a big fan of this one?
I liked it quite a lot. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Is there anything award-winning in this? I thought, Don Cheadle. I'm trying to think.
Don Cheadle might get some notice.
Yeah.
Del Toro, the acting, those two guys in particular were good, but Bill Duke, who is the black gangster.
Yes.
He eats up every scene that he's in. He's only in about 4, but you couldn't have him in more than that because he'd overwhelm the movie.
Yeah.
Ray Liotta, what a great choice for a gangster. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that he's older, right? And he's very good. And I thought the women were all quite good. That and especially the woman that played the accountant's wife, whose name Amy Simmons, I believe her name.
Yes.
She's a filmmaker as well. She's also a director.
Oh, sorry, Kent.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I thought Brendan Fraser now has like a presence to him.
About 300 pounds.
That really threw me off.
That's real, right? Like, I looked at pictures of him, and he's at least gained some weight since he was famous in the 90s. So I thought that he kind of owned some scenes. Well, I wouldn't want to mess with this guy.
When you saw the credits and you knew he was in it, and I was wondering,
when's he going to show up?
I wonder he's going to show up, and he's in one of the very first scenes. And
I'm guessing you and I were probably the same way. Wait, is that him?
And it was. I wasn't expecting him that early in the movie, and B, then when I realized, that's Brendan Fraser. I was like, whoa, he is not the same as he was in
Tarzan,
or School Day, or what was it? What was the movie where he played the football player back? I can't remember.
Or those stupid mummy movies.
Or the mummy movies.
Oh, I liked the first one.
Of course you did.
I was like 12.
That one threw me off a little bit. But and we haven't
the other thing.
Go ahead.
Did you notice how many of the characters made it through to the end of this movie?
Yep.
Not many.
Yeah.
Not many.
Yeah.
And we haven't even mentioned John Hamm yet.
Yeah, I thought John Hamm was really good too.
How many times can he play a cop but play him differently?
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
He played the cop in the town.
He plays a cop a lot in movies, but it's never the same guy.
Yeah.
Right?
He's just a little bit different.
The same way. Always a little different. This guy is kind of a slime ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Like you said, there's
Every
really
character.
no good guys in this movie with the exception of the wife and the two kids.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just like, you can't. And normally, even, I suppose, at the end of the day, you rooted for Cheadle, but even he didn't have many redeeming qualities.
Mm-hmm.
He was a bad dude from the very beginning. Obviously, he had just gotten out of jail.
Yeah,
but overall, it was a good watch.
Yeah.
It wasn't as enjoyable as the Ocean's Picture. And again, that might be on me for initially kind of putting the two dots together and expecting something a little bit different. Even though I went into it after last week of saying, okay, well, it's not going to be a funny movie. It's going to be more serious.
Yeah.
But, it was a good watch. And, for movies like this, I always watch to see just how good they are of keeping you in the period. So I'm kind of watching stuff in the background. Yeah. And I thought they did a really nice job.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Man.
You felt like you were back in the 50s. And it's not like they did a lot of CG work to fake it. I mean, it looked like they were in 1950s Detroit.
Yeah.
There in that, I think it was the very first when they go in the house and take them captive.
Yeah.
In the kitchen. When I was a little kid, my grandparents had that same refrigerator.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I recognize that refrigerator from my grandma's house.
The first thing I noticed was the light switches, the buttons, because my grandparents in Fremont, they had those types of light switches for years, and I always thought it was just so different than the normal, the flip on and
the toggle
on.
switch.
I always liked those buttons, so yeah.
So that is No Sudden Move. It is streaming on HBO Max. You can watch it right now. And I'm guessing, like with a lot of the other first-run movies, it'll be there for a month or so
and then,
before it drops off. So if you want to see it, make sure you get to it here before the end of the month. Question, because I don't know if we have ever used this streaming service.
Okay.
Have we ever used Peacock?
We haven't, but
I know of.
It's free, though. There is a free option,
yes.
And then you can get the paid one, which has no commercials.
Josh?
Oh?
It is time.
Oh?
It is time for you to go on a mission from God.
Oh, I was hoping hoping that you would say this.
The Blues Brothers is on Peacock.
All right.
And I know, Kent, you've mentioned it before. You've probably seen this about 40 times.
Yeah, and probably that's probably not too much of an exaggeration.
In fact,
it is one of the very first movies I ever wrote about.
Awesome. I would love, if there was a way to find it, I would love to see your first write-up about this.
I'll see if I can find it. But
I would love to see it because it's 41 years old now. I can't believe that.
Yep, we're on a, we could spend a whole 2 hours on this, or 3 hours, or however long you're on.
Josh has never seen it.
Never seen
This is one of my trifecta of great movies. Of course, Star Wars, Smokey and the Bandit, and Blues Brothers. That's my trifecta. That's my holy trinity.
How can you not have seen the Blues Brothers?
I don't know. It's just, one of those movies that just kind of...
I kind of understand it. It took me until I was in my 20s to see The Godfather.
Yeah.
So I could understand.
Yeah, it's just one of those...
Yes, and I just compared The Godfather to the Blues Brothers. I just did that.
Yeah, those rules about the movies you're not allowed to watch. That
may be a first.
And then you just get older, and then it's not on a streaming service. But now it is, and I just checked. It is free on Peacock.
All right, so Blues Brothers, it is.
What a bad name for a streaming service.
It is streaming on a Peacock, and in many ways, it's a good accompaniment to the Summer of Soul.
Oh,
because there's some great music in this movie.
Yeah, and
in fact, that was the one thing. That was the one thing, Ken. I was a little disappointed in Summer of Soul is that Aretha Franklin was not there.
And I don't think she performed during it. And my guess is Miss Aretha was too expensive.
That's true. I mean, in my opinion, greatest female singer of all time. In my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with you on that. But my guess is she was, and Aretha was, to my knowledge, never real wild about doing outdoor shows. And the interesting thing in that Summer of Soul, I don't know if you caught it, they had so little money to make this movie that they made sure that the stage faced west.
Yes.
So they get full sunlight on the stage.
Yes, and there was the scene in the movie where they talked about that. They specifically faced it that way because they didn't have lights, and the whole thing was held in the daytime.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do any shows beyond nighttime, so they could have good lighting for television.
Oh, that's great.
But the Blues Brothers.
All right,
next week. Best car chases in the movies, best music in the movies. The only acceptable musical in my mind in the world is the Blues Brothers.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, Kent, what do you think? Milwaukee, can they make this a series?
Absolutely. You may have heard, I've said this a million times before. NBA series doesn't start till the home team loses.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're supposed to do is win your 2 home games. We'll see if Milwaukee can win theirs. Last night, if Middleton and Holloway would have been able to throw it in the ocean from the beach, they might have won that game. I mean, Holiday at one point was 7 for 21. Keep shooting, buddy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, when your 2 guys that you're counting on to score go out and shoot 30%, because they kept them off the free throw line and they were in the game the whole time. They just couldn't put 5 shots together to get it to where it was a 1 or 2 possession game.
Agreed.
You do that at home, they're not going to shoot. Your role players play better at home. So I think Milwaukee's got a real shot, and Giannis is amazing playing the way he is with that knee.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think of what he could do if he wasn't hurt right now. Because he's
Yeah.
playing. If we didn't know he was hurt, we would have no idea.
That's
just
right.
with how well he's played.
Did he hit 40 last night? It was close to it.
I thought it was. I thought he had 41.
Yeah,
41. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right, John.
I think he had 41.
42 on
42.
15 of 22 shooting. Just stupid.
Yeah, stupid good last night.
Yeah.
By the way, Amazing Daniel writes in our comments section. I'll put this one up. There it is. Oh,
because he said he has it muted because I realized what movie it is, and we're watching that this weekend. But from the looks of it, I imagine Kent is telling you guys about how his scientists were able to extract the DNA from the amber and create Jurassic Park.
He does kind of look like
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Oh, it's a summer, baby.
Great.
It's a good
That's
look.
great.
Kent has great hats and he has great shirts, so he can pull it off. All right, Kent. Well, we'll look forward to the Blues Brothers next week.
This will
on
be
the Movie
big
Club.
fun next
Yes,
week.
it will. All right. See you, Kent.
Later, Kent.
There he is, Kent Wolgamont, and Movie Club here on 1620 The Zone.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will come back and get ready. One Beer Fridays coming up and a whole lot more here on 1620 The Zone.